Pro Circuit Angler Clark Ream, currently at Smith Lake in Alabama, outside of Coleman, Jasper, Alabama area. And today is our off day for this event, which is March 10th. We have 2 days of practice, which is Monday and Tuesday. We have an off day, and then the tournament starts on Thursday. So in the off day, we usually go to the service yard, get things fixed, take pictures, have a meeting. But one of the main things that we do is we go buy tackle from the local tackle stores, go look for the things that we need for this event. So without anything else, this is today's What's in the Bag. Today's trip was to Vans Outdoors, or Vans Sporting Goods, outside of Coleman, Alabama. This store was awesome. Had a ton of stuff, ton of fishing stuff, ton of hunting stuff, a lot of clothes. But the fishing department had a whole lot of a little bit of different brands and everything else. And one of the things whenever I travel around I like seeing is the little mom and pop type of jig companies or spinner baits or what little local baits there are. But I went in looking for a certain bait or two for this event. You know, the practice is over. It's going to be a tough event. We have a 15-inch minimum size limit. Catching spotted bass over 15 inches, you know, can be tricky. You're catching quite a few fish. A lot of them are going to be small. But I know I'm going to go through multiple baits. I know after practice what I'm going to throw, and I went to go stock up on that. So let's see what is in today's What's in the Bag. Now remember, I don't have tackle sponsors, so I can talk about any product that I want. I'm not pimping out any sort of brands or anything like that. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm buying for this event or throughout the year whenever I travel. So the first thing I'm going to pull out is a Rapala Balsa Extreme Series wake bait. You can see right there. Now from practice, I can tell you, I didn't get bit on a wake bait. Now our conditions are changing though. It's warming up, we're on a major warm front, and I know that wake baits are a serious deal here on Smith Lake, and it's kind of a pre-spawn deal, and when the spotted bass start really getting on beds, you know, they'll come up in this clear water and eat these wake baits. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this tied on. As the week progresses, we're going to have to adapt and adjust throughout this event as anglers to be successful, because these fish are going from winter to pre-spawn. You know, guys have talked about how, you know, it's going to get warm enough. We might be looking at them at the end of the week. I don't foresee that happening. The water is still cold, especially down deep. Whenever you catch a fish, they're really cold. But I know that in these types of fisheries, whenever they start moving up, these big spotted bass will come up and smoke a wake bait. And I'm going to throw it in a lot of the places I plan on fishing in this tournament, just kind of as a pick it up here and there. What I like about this wake bait is going to be, I'm fishing on a lot of docks, and there's a lot of dock cables, and some of them are going to be like dipped down underneath the water. And this bait is going to be able to go over the top of those. Whereas if I throw a jerk bait, it's going to get snagged on those dock cables as I'm working the bait. It's going to get frustrating. And so this is going to be an opportunity to cast in several places that oh, there's a dog coming, that I'm not going to be able to get a jerk bait to. So it might draw a bigger bite, especially as the week progresses. I've got 1 or 2 of these already, but I bought this one because it had a different color. In practice, I threw one, it kind of had a gold back, and I didn't like the way it looked going through the water. And this one's got kind of a grayish back, you know, it's called Pearl Gray Shiner, and I think it's going to look better in the water. Anytime you have a clear water situation for top water, you know, a bone color or any sort of just basic gray and white is going to be an ideal type of color. You know, sometimes a flash of one color or another might be a turn off to fish. So that's why I got this gray back one right here. Also kind of imitates a blueback herring a little bit. Their backs are kind of more of an olive or grayish green, and that's what I like about this this balsa wake bait. I've caught a bunch at home on it, so I need to get a color I think I can have confidence in. All right, next thing in the bag is a spool of Seaguar Smackdown 15-pound braided line, and it's in flash green braid. I've got a reel that I need to spool up. I've about worn it down, that I've had on this braided line from last year. You know, I want to throw the 15-pound because on this rod I'm throwing a wacky rig Cinco, and with that 15 as opposed to 20, I can throw it a lot farther. It's going to come through the guides a lot smoother. I like using the green line because I can actually see it. So if I get a bite, I'll see it hop or I'll see it tighten up. And then I'm going to tie a fluorocarbon leader onto that anyway, so it really doesn't matter that it's green. But with this, I'm going to be able to make really long throws with that Wacky Rig Senko in the clear water and let it fall down, and I'll be able to watch the line as it goes down to see if I get a bite or not. And so that's why I've got the 15-pound green. And I'll end up leaving this on a spinning reel all season long. It's not going to go bad. You know, you rotate through rods and reels, and this doesn't have memory, so it's going to be good on there all season up until the last event of the season, which is the title championship at La Crosse. And so I'll end up keeping this on, you know, all year, and it'll last all year, because even whenever you're cutting it off, you're only cutting a couple of feet off at a time, so that's going to last me a while. Worth the price. Now, lastly, what I bought, and this is going to be the primary bait that I'm going to throw in this tournament, are Keitech, Keitech swim baits. I got 2 different sizes, and I've already got a bunch of these with me, but you know, the tackle store didn't have many left, and so I wanted to get a couple more of the colors I'm going to throw. They're not going to go bad. You know, in all the colors I got a Sexy Shad in a 3.3 inch. I got a Smallmouth Magic in 3.3 inch, because that's going to be one of the primary sizes I throw. I've got a Tennessee Shad in a 2.8 size, which is a lot smaller. And I got 2 packs of Silver Flash Minnow, which has kind of got a grayish back, pearl side with a little silver and green flake in it. And so I don't really think the color is going to matter that much. I think it's going to be more of imitating whatever shad pattern you're going to want to throw. But I think it's going to be more about just getting in front of one. And I think that guys are catching some on spy baits and things like that. You can catch them jerking. But I know that if this comes by, you know, one of these bigger spotted bass, it's going to come eat it. I'm throwing it on an 1/8 ounce and a 3/16 ounce head, and slow rolling it on the bottom. A lot of those fish are eating it in the fall. And you know, there's a lot of swim baits out there, but it's just like Senkos and some of these other baits. The original, I think, is the best. They're softer than a lot of the knockoffs of this type of swim bait, and it actually has a great action whenever it's falling down on a jig head. It'll swim down. You get a lot of bites from suspended fish as it's falling, and I just think you can reel it a lot slower to keep a constant action. And a lot of the knockoffs, the plastic is a little bit harder, and so the tail doesn't kick at slower speeds, and so that is why I choose to throw the original Keitech ones. And again, I've got a bunch of them in all the different sizes they carry. It seems like the smaller one has been working better in practice. I bet probably 50% of the field in this tournament is going to be throwing some variation of this, and probably 100% of all guys have one tied on, at least in the rod box, if not on the deck of the boat. But my game plan is probably to throw one of these little swim baits the majority of the day, mix it up with some other soft plastics whenever the conditions arise, maybe throw that wake bait a little bit more, throw a jerk bait every now and again down the side of a dock. But that's going to be kind of the game plan, and that's why I bought more, because when you get a bite a lot of times, you get short strikers, they'll nip that tail off, and the tail will bite off real quick, and the plastic isn't that durable, so it's going to pop off a hook pretty easily. They're good for usually a fish or two, and then they're ruined. And so, like I said, with limited availability, even though this tackle store is great, you know, they were still running out of colors for the sheer number of guys and that pattern that's going on. So I wanted to get a few more before they disappeared, and I'll be able to catch them actually with this bait, especially up at St. Lawrence whenever we get our smallmouth fisheries. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here in my bag is jig heads. I didn't buy these at the store, but I've been playing around with different swim bait heads, and one of the ones that I decided I like for what I'm doing are these Dirty Jigs guppy heads. It's actually called a Matt Steffen guppy head. Matt Steffen is one of my boys on tour, and I was running out of heads, so after I went to the tackle store, I went to the house he was staying at, loaded up on them. Appreciate Matt. And I've played around with a whole bunch of different jig heads. You know, a lot of times these little ball head, you know, but the trick about these that I like, you know, it's got a good Gamakatsu hook, but on the throat where the lead is, it actually makes like several barbs coming down it, those ridges right there, and they actually hold that Kitech on extremely well, better than a lot of other little swim bait hooks. I don't really have a need to put super glue on these to hold it, because if it's going to rip off, it's going to rip down the back, and it's going to pull down and be barely dangling off the back side of it, and they're still good to throw at that point. But for some reason, that little hook right there, that head, that whole style right there swims great. That's kind of become one of my go-tos also. And I've played with a bunch of different heads this week, but I got a whole handful of them from that, different sizes. I got some of the 3/0 hook for that for the 3.3. I've got some with a 1/0 hook for all those are the 3.3s. I got some with a 1/0 hook, which is really tiny for throwing that 2.8. I got a bunch of different weights up to a 1/4 ounce, 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce, and that is what I plan on throwing. And I'll probably have multiple rods on the deck with different size swim baits, different weights, depending on the depth of the water and what I'm doing, and some of those things. So I'm Clark Ream. This is your What's in the Bag for March 10th here at Smith Lake in Alabama. And hopefully y'all learned a little bit right there. And after the tournament, we'll give a recap on how we utilize this stuff, what worked, what didn't, and what I actually had in the boat already. And, you know, hopefully I didn't waste any money on buying this stuff, but it just goes to show that not all pros get everything for free, and we still go to the tackle store and we buy a whole lot of things when we're at these events.